Marcus wiped the grease from his hands as the emergency klaxon pierced through the maintenance bay of Colony Station Epsilon. The sound made every human on the orbital platform freeze. It wasn't the standard evacuation alarm. This was the xenological contact signal, something that hadn't been heard in the 3 years since humanity had established this outpost in the Dracoris system. Through the reinforced viewport, Marcus could see something that defied every tactical manual the Colonial Defense Force had ever written. A massive creature, easily 300 meters long, floated in the vacuum of space just outside the station's perimeter. Its scales shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, and great wings that seemed more energy than matter rippled around its serpentine form. The dragon, for that's what every human who saw it instinctively called the creature, was not attacking. It was pleading. Commander Sarah Chen's voice crackled through the comm system. All personnel to emergency stations. We have an unidentified xenological entity attempting communication. Marcus had spent 15 years as a deep space mechanic, maintaining everything from atmospheric processors to quantum drive cores. He'd seen the impossible made routine through human engineering. But he'd never seen anything like this. The dragon's massive head turned toward the observation deck, and Marcus felt something touch his mind, not invasive, but desperate. Images flooded his consciousness. Smaller versions of the great creature, trapped in what appeared to be a subterranean cavern rapidly filling with liquid. The baby's distress calls echoed not through his ears, but directly into his heart. "Commander," Marcus activated his comm unit, his voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. "I'm receiving some kind of telepathic communication. There are juveniles in danger." The bridge erupted in chatter, but Commander Chen's voice cut through the noise. "Explain, Marcus." "Drowning," he said simply. "The little ones are drowning and she can't reach them." Through the viewport, the dragon's great eyes, each one larger than Marcus himself, focused on him with unmistakable intelligence and desperate hope. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, the station's xenobiologist, appeared beside him. "The scans show the entity's physiology is partially energy-based, but those young ones, they're reading as primarily matter-based. They haven't developed the energy manipulation capabilities yet, which means they can't survive in whatever environment the mother can," Marcus concluded, his engineer's mind already working through the problem. "Commander, request permission to launch a rescue operation." "Marcus, we don't even know if this is a trap, if it's not." The certainty in his own voice surprised him. "Look at her, Commander. That's not aggression or deception. That's a mother watching her children die." The dragon's mental touch came again, this time showing Marcus the location, a moon-sized asteroid in the system's belt, hollowed out by mining operations centuries ago. The abandoned mines had flooded when an underground reservoir had been breached, and the dragon's young had been exploring the caverns when disaster struck. Commander Chen was quiet for a long moment. "What would you need?" Marcus was already moving toward the equipment lockers. "Modified atmospheric suit for underwater operation, portable oxygen generation unit, and the emergency medical pod from Bay 7. The good news is, if they're still alive, human diving technology should work in any liquid environment." "And the bad news? I have to convince a 300-meter space dragon to let a tiny human help her children." Within an hour, Marcus found himself in the most surreal situation of his career. The dragon, who had somehow communicated that her name translated roughly to stellar wind that nurtures, had gently grasped his modified shuttle in her energy field and was carrying him through space toward the flooded asteroid. The journey gave Marcus time to modify his equipment. The portable manufacturing unit in his shuttle allowed him to create scaled-up oxygen masks. If the dragon young were drowning, they needed air, regardless of their alien physiology. The asteroid's surface was pockmarked with mining shafts. Stellar wind guided him to one that pulsed with faint, bioluminescent distress signals from deep within. Marcus suited up and activated his helmet lights. The water was murky with centuries of settled dust, but his equipment cut through it efficiently. 300 meters down, he found them. 4 young dragons, each about the size of a shuttle, trapped in an air pocket that was rapidly shrinking as water continued to seep through. The rock above. The juveniles' telepathic cries were overwhelming, but Marcus focused on the task. Years of emergency repairs in impossible conditions had trained him for this. He attached the portable oxygen generator to the cavern wall and began expanding. The air pocket. The young dragons watched him with curious, intelligent eyes as he worked. When he produced the oversized oxygen masks he'd fabricated, they seemed to understand instinctively, allowing him to fit the breathing apparatus over their elongated snouts. But the water was still rising. Marcus activated his comm unit. "Commander, I need you to redirect the station's mining laser array to coordinates I'm transmitting. We need to create a new exit shaft." "Marcus, that's going to destabilize the entire asteroid. Then we'd better work fast." The next 30 minutes were a careful dance of human technology and draconic cooperation. As the mining lasers carved through rock above them, Marcus used his suit's thrusters to guide each young dragon toward the rapidly forming exit shaft. The juveniles, still wearing their improvised breathing gear, followed his directions with remarkable trust. One by one, they emerged into space where stellar wind waited. Marcus watched through his helmet's display as the mother dragon embraced her children with wings of pure energy, her telepathic gratitude washing over him in waves. But the reunion was interrupted by alarms from his suit. The asteroid was indeed collapsing, and he was still inside the shaft. Before he could react, gentle energy tendrils surrounded him. Stellar wind had reached into the crumbling asteroid and lifted him to safety with the same care she'd shown her own young. Back aboard Colony Station Epsilon, Marcus stood in the observation deck watching the dragon family prepare to leave. Stellar wind approached the station one final time, and Marcus felt her presence in his mind, not just gratitude but something deeper. Through their telepathic link, she shared knowledge, locations of rich mineral deposits, warning of spatial hazards, and most importantly, the promise that humanity now had a friend among the ancient intelligences of the galaxy. As the dragon family disappeared into the cosmic distance, their scales leaving trails of beautiful light, Commander Chen appeared beside Marcus. "So," she said quietly, "how does it feel to be the first human to establish diplomatic relations with a space dragon?" Marcus watched the last glimmers of bioluminescent light fade into the stars and smiled. "Like we just proved that some things are universal, Commander. Love, family, and the fact that sometimes all it takes to solve an impossible problem is a mechanic with the right tools and enough stubborn determination to use them." The galaxy had just learned something important about humanity. They were the species crazy enough to dive into an alien flood to save someone else's children, and somehow make it work. And in the vast cosmic community of intelligences, that made humans very interesting allies indeed.